Hi guys, so today we will be continuing with our studies of proteins, right? So today we will be classifying proteins. Proteins in general we know are polypeptide chains and they undergo severe folding before they can become their functional cells, because if not folded they are usually nascent and they are usually susceptible to the different kinds of stresses a cell can present. So the pH of the cell, the temperature of the cell, inherent chemicals inside the cell can lead to destruction of those proteins. That is why a protein needs to get folded. Protein folding we will do in detail in the next video. As of now, when the proteins get folded, those proteins get assigned specific functions and they have specific structures. On the basis of that, we can classify proteins into three bases. The bases would be the shape, the function, and the composition. Now, we'll start with composition. What do I mean by the composition of a protein? So, if a protein is made only simply with amino acids, then it's called a simple protein. For example, the histone proteins. Histone is an octameric protein, so it has 8 subunits which make the whole histone protein, which obviously helps us in DNA packaging. So that is a very good example of a simple protein. On the other hand, conjugated proteins are those proteins which, with amino acid groups, have something called a prosthetic group. As you know, prosthesis or prosthetic surgeries are surgeries where amputated people are attached with prosthetic or fake arms, not fake actually, they are mechanized arms through which they can carry on their day-to-day functions. Prosthetic groups in the case of enzymes refer to such groups which can be attached or detached to an enzyme. In this case, in conjugated proteins, prosthetic groups are inherent to the functionality of that particular protein. Now, a very good example of this would be hemoglobin. The heme component is prosthetic to it. So, then you have many glycoproteins, lipoproteins, which are all examples of these conjugated proteins. Going to the next base, which is the functionality. So, enzymes are proteins, and there are a lot of enzymes are in our system. So proteins have been classified into enzymatic and non-enzymatic. When we come and talk about enzymatic, it can be anything. It can be carbonic anhydrase, it can be lipases, amylases, proteases themselves are also proteins that digest proteins. They are all enzymes. So enzymes are basically biocatalysts, which are all mostly proteins by nature. Non-enzymatic ones can be further classified into structural or protoplasmic protein. So structural protein gives us our structure. So actin, myosin, keratin. These are all structural proteins. These structural proteins are usually thread-like or fibrous, but they can also be globular or circular. Okay. Reserve proteins are proteins which store food. So the egg yolk is reserve protein, egg white is reserve protein, egg yolk is fat. Defense would be the globulins, the immunoglobulins, IgG, A, D, M, and E, which are produced in our bodies, which we very colloquially call antibodies. They are your defense proteins. Hormones, not all, but most of your hormones are also proteins, and they are classified as hormonal proteins. Respiratory proteins are proteins which help in carrying the oxygen. So in us, it is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin helps in carrying the oxygen in humans and many other organisms, and that makes it our respiratory protein. So coming to the shape, then shape can be broadly fibrous or globular. For example, respiratory proteins, reserve proteins, defense proteins, they all tend to be globular or circular in structure. whereas structural proteins are more thread-like, right? So fibrous is thread-like. Keratin, for example, is present in the nail, in the hair. Myosin is present in muscles. Elastin is present in your elastic tissue, connective tissue, right? So I hope this classification was clear. In the next video, we'll need to do protein folding. Thank you.